Today, French military looks more determined and capable than ever, impressing the world with its latest developments. It's hard to believe that over the past 25 years, French have only participated in expeditionary missions such as in Mali and Afghanistan. Spending on the army was constantly being cut. It reached the point where high-ranking defense leaders of the French armed forces threatened to resign if the defense budget was cut further. It seems that the glorious French army has lost its status forever. However, Russia's aggression against Ukraine has become a cold shower for the country's political leadership, which has radically changed its military course. We've all heard the French president's bold statements about helping Ukraine in the war with Russia. In addition, Emmanuel Macron has unveiled a 6-year defense budget totaling more than $450 billion, almost 40% more than in previous periods. What exactly will all this money be spent on? What does Europe's strongest army look like now? And how can the new French tank surprise? Let's dive in. You're at CENTAC, the most modern combat training center in eastern France, and it is impressive. The 120 square kilometer camp is larger than Paris and is the only place where the French army's various units, including infantry, armor, artillery, and engineering troops, usually scattered across the country, can conduct joint training. French officers do not name potential enemies, but the exercise aims to prepare forces to deal with an enemy like Russia. This is probably why CENTAC officers completely recreated typical battlefield environments in Ukraine, scrutinizing the tactics of both Ukrainians and Russians. For 96 hours, the French soldiers performed maneuvers to the roar of cannons. They were given no more than 4 hours a day to sleep. Drones of a simulated enemy, played by experienced troops permanently stationed at CENTAC, circled their positions. The trainees had to change their positions every 5 minutes, otherwise they would be considered conditionally killed or wounded. And this is just a tiny part of the complex training program. The scale and quality of the project impresses, as is the fact that by 2027, the French army aims to deploy one division of about 25,000 soldiers in 30 days. However, the French soldiers had something special that significantly differentiated their conditions from those of the Ukrainian military: tanks. CENTAC is the only place where 24 Leclerc tanks are available year-round, especially its modernized version, the XLR. This latest version of the Leclerc has a new fire control system that helps to hit stationary targets at a distance of up to 2.5 miles. The 120mm smoothbore tank gun is equipped with a thermal sleeve and dynamic barrel positioning system and can clear gas with compressed air. Moreover, it has been adapted to fire programmable ammunition. Additionally, the Leclerc XLR received a new 1200mm thick armor that increases the tank's survivability. This armor protects against even the newest kinetic projectiles with a tungsten alloy or depleted uranium core. If this beast appeared on the Ukrainian front, it would definitely crack Russian T-90s like nuts. Don't you agree? Then please do not spare us a like. The Leclerc XLR is equipped with additional mine protection, dynamic protection, and anti-tank grills to protect the crew. To combat enemy manpower, the tank received an FN Herstal T2B remote-controlled weapon station with a 7.62mm machine gun. That's pretty cool, but will all these innovations save the tank during a battle, when hundreds of shells fall on each acre per day? As long as this is exactly happening on the Ukrainian front, the answer is yes, they will. After all, we have not yet told you about the most important thing. First, the new tank has been integrated into the SICS combat network. This is the French equivalent of the American Link 16 system. Don't worry, we'll explain in a moment. The idea is as follows. Each participant in the battle, from tankers, infantry, and artillery to UAV operator units, receives and instantly provides information about changes on the battlefield. For example, each unit has real-time geolocation of friendly troops or information about enemy positions right on its tablet. This makes it possible to monitor the tactical situation on the battlefield and conduct coordinated combat operations. The high level of command control should be the main advantage of the French army against such a potential enemy as the Russians. The fact is that the Soviet doctrine of tank warfare used by the Russian army was formed by the Soviet marshals during World War II. According to this doctrine, tank troops should act like sledgehammers and destroy everything in their path. This tactic failed in February 2022 when Russian columns tried to break through to Kiev. Unlike the Soviet approach, Western tank tactics follow the philosophy of cavalry: move fast, strike hard. This principle was professed by German generals and the greatest military commander of all time, George S. Patton. The purpose of moving fast and striking hard is to prevent the enemy from reacting effectively. The Leclerc XLR fully complies with the move fast, strike hard tactic. It accelerates to 45 miles per hour on good roads and can maintain a speed of 30 miles per hour on poor surfaces. The tank fires up to 12 rounds per minute thanks to an automatic loading system, and the gun has 2-plane stabilization. However, the main complement to its speed and maneuverability is the crew's awareness of the battlefield and timely support from infantry, artillery, and aviation, which is again based on instantaneous information. Griffin, Jaguar, and Serval armored vehicles, drones, and robots that communicate with infantry are also expected to become the eyes of combat units. Thus, the French army is confidently entering the era of joint combat operations. Of course, the Leclerc XLR cannot be called a silver bullet in the confrontation with Russia. France desperately needs guns, armored personnel carriers, and an endless supply of ammunition. That is why 4,000 French companies that produce weapons for the French army have been notified of the need to increase production dramatically. For example, Nexter Systems, which produces the Caesar self-propelled howitzer, has to double its production this year to 8 units per month. The plant now operates 24/7. It seems like 8 units per month isn't a lot, but France has had 76 Caesar guns as of 2021. By the way, some countries have transferred their Caesars to Ukraine. The French SAU is particularly shining in this war, terrifying Russian positions. Unlike the American M777, the Caesar self-propelled howitzer can operate entirely autonomously for a long time. It can fire, hide, or change position and then fire from another location, considering the data from the previous shot. The range of high-explosive fragmentation projectiles exceeds 25 miles, and the range of VLAP active-reactive projectiles reaches 34 miles. Caesar is the longest-range self-propelled howitzer in the world. The only drawback is the limited cross-country ability in the Ukrainian black soil. On the other hand, even tanks get stuck in Ukrainian soil. Therefore, Nexter Systems will not change the wheeled chassis to attract one for the European theater of operations. Another French weapon that has proven itself in Ukraine is the AASM, Armament Air Sol Modulaire Hammer Guided Bomb. Obviously, this is a very high priority weapon for the French Air Force. This is evident from the fact that France has invested its own resources to adapt Ukrainian MiG-29 and Su-27 fighters for them. This is not an easy task, but today there is no other such opportunity to test the effectiveness of a 550-pound AASM Hammer in a real war. Afghanistan and Libya, which were in the past, cannot be compared to the war in Ukraine, either in terms of intensity or the level of enemy resistance. Some call the AASM Hammer a hybrid of a bomb and a missile, but technically it is a conventional bomb with a special mounting kit that increases the range and accuracy of the strike. The AASM Hammer is the French equivalent of the American JDAM, with a range of 43 miles. In addition to the 550-pound version, there is also a 2,200-pound guided bomb. If the Ukrainian experience remains positive, the AASM Hammer will remain on the list of weapons for the French Rafale fighter jets and may be integrated with the F-16. This will allow the French to increase the production of these munitions and reduce their cost. The aircraft manufacturer Dassault Aviation and its partners Thales, Safran, and MDBA will receive more than $5.5 billion. For this money, the company is committed to building 42 more Rafale fighters in the Standard 4 configuration. The new fighters will be able to carry up to 3 2,200-pound AASM Hammer missiles. In total, the Rafale has 14 suspension units. This is more than any other modern fighter in the world. In addition, the Rafale is the only fighter in the world that can carry 1.5 times its own weight. Moreover, its combat payload reaches 21,000 pounds, which is also a record among fighters. In the production of the new Rafale batch, Dassault Aviation will allow the possibility of upgrading the configuration to Standard 5. In this version, the French fighter will be able to carry weapons that are being designed or tested. We are also talking about the latest hypersonic missile with a nuclear warhead, ASN-4G or Air Sol Nucléaire of the 4th generation. As they say, we are waiting. So, almost all of the more than $450 billion allocated for defense will be spent on hardware. Only the smallest part of the funds will be spent on nuclear weapons. French Defense Minister Sébastien Leclerc has announced an increase in nuclear warheads from 290 to 350. Will this strategy of allocating funds be successful? And will these military upgrades be enough for France to really repel an enemy like Russia? Share your thoughts in the comments.